We've talked about scannability on your letters and on your newsletters, but very rarely do we talk about scannability on a website. Also, scannability on a form, like a donation form. Someone's ability to process the information quickly and not run into friction really impacts whether or not they complete the donation process, the sign-up process. You want to format the titles, the headers, the form fields, the colors. You want to format all of that to reduce cognitive load and prevent any type of friction so that you get them to complete the action. So there's I want to talk about 9 different ways you can optimize specifically the forms on your website, whether that's a donation process or it's a newsletter sign up. And then we're going to go through 2 examples. St. Jude's, we're going to look at their donation page and see, what did they do right, what did they do wrong, and then we're also going to look at Cedars-Sinai, which is a hospital, and they do a bunch of research. We're going to look at both of those, see if they applied these 9 principles to their forms. Step 1 has to do with color, and it's so funny how much internal controversy there is over colors used. You want to make your form as easy to complete as possible. So first thing, make sure that the form field, like where they put in their information, make that white, and then make the background, do that an off-white fill. So white on an off-white fill. That's one of the best ways to be able to process information on a form without colors getting in the way and distracting. Keep it very basic. Typically, a white fill on an off-white background performs best. Number 2, this one sounds very basic, but you want to label the steps. If you're doing a multi-step form, you want to make sure you're tracking those in the top right corner so they know where they're at and they can easily navigate. Another thing is you want to make sure you use a big header so there's no confusion about what form they're filling out, what they're doing. You don't want to land on a donation page and wonder, are you really in the right place? You want them to complete the donation. Something else, going back to the white fill on the off-white background, that eliminates the need for visible borders. Whenever you can, you want to eliminate those borders that line each of the form fields. That creates it makes it more difficult to skim. So by doing that white on off-white, you don't have to use black borders around each of the form fields. Step 3, you want to put the label and the input in the same box. So instead of putting name and then having a box below it, you want to put name inside the box where they're going to input their data. The benefit of putting the label and the input in that same area, in that same form field, is 1, it's easier to skim, and number 2, if you're using your phone, it's easier to touch these form fields. So it makes it more accessible from a phone mobile standpoint because most people are looking at your website or donating on their phone. Fewer borders makes the form look like less work. Something else to do, and it's just common sense, but I don't see people doing it, is reduce the number of form fields you want them to fill out. Don't require data you don't need. It's going to slow it down and people are going to bounce. Instead of asking for first name and last name in their own separate boxes, combine those. You want to combine form fields whenever possible, or input fields, whatever you want to call them. You want to combine those when possible. Also, it's really nice to use that little icon in the top that explains why you're asking for information. So for example, I do require a phone number on my donation page, but in the background, so in the back of that form field in light text, it says, so I can thank you. Alternatively, you could put a little icon in the top right corner and they can click on that and it'll explain why you want that data. This is very important. You want to go about everything that you do on your website from an empathetic standpoint. How can you make this easier, more enjoyable, faster for the visitor? Here's something that's a little bit counterintuitive. You want to reduce drop-down forms wherever possible. It simply clutters the form and makes it more difficult to complete rapidly. Typically, what is recommended, instead of doing drop-downs, you want to do select options or use something called a select chip, which is basically a button. They're easier to use on your phone. That is different, by the way, than a checkbox. Those tiny little checkboxes. You don't want to use those. You can't use them very well on your phone. It's hard to use on your phone. So when possible, use select chips, also called buttons, also called select options. Use those when possible and avoid that drop-down menu. Something else, I know you know this one. You want big, colorful buttons. Buttons with no generic labels. You want to label buttons in a way that reaffirms the action and also clearly communicates what's next. 3 last things, and then we'll get to reviewing the donation forms. Use icons whenever you can instead of text. Again, easier to skim. So instead of edit, use a pencil icon. Something else that you would do is don't let the experience end once they've said submit, or once they say, purchase, or once they've said donate. So when it comes to donors, you want to overwhelm them with love from the beginning to the end. You don't want there to be end. You want them to stay in your file, part of your family. So for example, I like to have a video come on screen after they've given, from the ED to the donor saying, this is what your gift will do. thank you so much, and then send them an immediate receipt with warm copy, not that transactional data. I mean, include that, but you want to have warm copy as well. Send them an email a day later with a story of impact saying your gift is going to do something like this. So don't let the experience end. Keep them in your stream of communications and continue to thank them, and then follow up on the impact of their gift. Last one, there's 2 different ways to display data. There are format lists and there are table layouts. Which is easier to skim? The table layout is. So when possible, you want a format like that. This last one is a bonus tip. You see gray text everywhere on pages. Gray is difficult to read, but the reason designers use it is because a lot of times font weights, there's only like 2. And so what you need to do, you don't want to be using gray. So an option is go to fonts.google.com. Pick a font that has a lot of different weights. So have a light, a regular, a medium, a semi-bold, a bold font weight. So you'd have all those different font weights to use, and that would be really helpful when you're trying to differentiate different sections like a header, subhead. That helps you format things without having to use gray. Now let's get to application. It is my favorite part to give you because it drives me nuts when I hear theory all the time, but nobody's telling me how do I use this data. Like, let's look at St. Jude's website. The best things about this page I'm seeing, no navigation. There are no attention links. I'm seeing that I'm on this page. There's nothing to distract me off of it. That's a win. I also see that they've pre-selected a monthly gift and a monthly gift amount. That helps me a lot as a donor because I don't know what type of gift I should give. How much is going to do something meaningful? We know that by pre-selecting a gift amount, that reduces the cognitive effort and load. And so again, you're not paralyzed by decision fatigue, like what do I do? So they've pre-selected $25 a month. I'm also seeing what's good. I'm also seeing that they started from a low ask amount to a high. We know that that type of ask string performs best. You don't want to start with a high and go to low. Basically, you want the barrier of entry to be as small as possible so that they feel like yes. You want multiple yeses, multiple baby yeses, so that they say a big yes. They also include an affirmation statement in terms of why you might want to give a monthly gift. That has been proven to improve conversion rates when you can include an affirmation statement. Something else they do is they put the label and the input in the same field, which is awesome. It makes the field bigger, easier to scan. They include a security icon, which we know through testing Next After is done that also improves conversion. They also avoided drop-down menus. So again, scannability is good. Now something I'm curious about, I'm curious why they chose monthly. They pre-selected it. That's kind of a risky thing to do. What if this person checks out and gives a monthly gift and that's not what they intended, and then trust is kind of broken because you pre-selected it. So I'm sure they're testing this, but that's not something as a small nonprofit I would probably do. It's just a little too risky, and you're not going to have a large enough sample size to know for you as a small nonprofit if that's going to be beneficial. Let's talk about what's bad. There's no differentiation between the input fields and then the background. So the background fill, the color of the background is the exact same as the color of that input form field. So it's difficult to skim as everything is white. We also have very tiny checkboxes. We also have borders around each of the buttons, which again, should they have used that color contrast, they wouldn't have needed those borders, so it would have made it more skimmable. There's also a lot of buttons that are colors. So I'm not sure, like I'm seeing yellow, I'm seeing 2 blues. This is a little bit chaotic. You might instead want to just take them to payment and they can choose to pay through PayPal. I know everyone's limited by their plugin that they're using for this, but again, you don't want tons of different buttons. All right, let's move on to Mount Sinai. So we get on this page, we do see happy people. I would say this picture might be better in a cultivation piece or in a newsletter because we see this little boy's getting help. However, that's fine. Let's just talk about the form itself. Let's talk wins. The input form fields are a different color than the background color. So that's good. It eliminates the need for harsh borders. No crazy navigation, so I'm not having a lot of attention links. Woohoo. So this entire process stays on the page, and so that's really good. The donor feels safer that way. Something I'm unsure about is the fact that it's labeled gift information. There's really no affirmation text. I don't really know if I'm on the right page. Give to Mount Sinai, gift information. It almost feels like I'm in the middle of the donation process, like they're looking to collect my donor information. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. This is just a common sense human thing. I just feel like it's a bit confusing on what step of the process I'm in. So the fact it says gift information instead of something like my gift to help a child, or there really isn't a header that's affirming the value or need for my gift. All I see is gift information. So I don't know. That's just something I'm unsure about that I'd want to test again if I had lots of traffic to this page. Let's talk about what's bad. Okay, you know what's bad right off the bat. Support the Mount Sinai health system. People give to people. they don't give to organizations. And so this is just horrible copy from just the very beginning. And then again, they're talking at me. They're literally telling me that they're grateful for the generosity of our partners. It's almost as if they're educating me on how they feel about their donor when I am their donor. Talk to me. So this is horrible action copy. It doesn't encourage me to make a gift. I don't even feel like I'm needed. Just be real, it's not even action copy. Okay, something they did do, they pre-selected give once. This is the safer route to go. It's what I would do if I were under 5 mil and had less traffic to the page. Now, you could always put a little asterisk under give monthly and emphasize why a monthly gift is needed. There's also testing that's been done. Next After's done this, I think, with Focus on the Family, where during the donation process, as they were giving, a pop-up came up and asked for a monthly gift instead, and they found that that increased revenue and conversion. However, if you're a small nonprofit, again, you don't know if you're going to lose money or it's going to be beneficial. So that's not something I would do if I were you. Now, you'll see they start the gift array from very high to low. This doesn't perform well. Don't do that. Always start low to high. Something I want to note on gift ask arrays, a lot of times, you'll just do times 1 times 1.5 times 2 in terms of you take the donor's last gift, and that's the multiplier that you end up using. There is a useful tactic where you can increase, like you add in an extra gift amount and you make that last gift amount much, much higher than the rest. This tends to increase the average gift size by just basically creating an anchor on the higher end of that gift ask string. So that's something you can try. We're getting close to the end. I also see no pre-selected gift amount. What is good is they're asking if the donor would like to cover those fees. About 60% of donors choose to do that. And generally it does not reduce the gift amount that they were already planning on giving. One bad thing is they are using those little bitty buttons. You want to use a select chip, something that's much bigger and easier to click on your phone. You also see they're using drop-down boxes. Now this drop-down, you've got a ton of gift options. They would want to find a way to simplify this. Probably want to put a lock on that donation button. What else do you want to do? You want to get rid of these extra forms. You don't need to collect a suffix. You can send them a follow-up survey and get that if you'd like. You also don't want to ask, how did you hear about us on the donation form? Again, do it in a survey. Donors are highly involved right after giving a gift. So the likelihood of getting this information from them is quite high. And then they should have used a heavier font weight and larger text to differentiate each of the sections. All the different colors are confusing. I would stick to one color, but again, use different weights to create very clear sections. So I would love to know if this was helpful to you. We've got amazing, amazing humans in this space talking about copy and ask strings. And so this is a little bit different than normal. I find sometimes I need to build a form, and I'm making it, and I'm like, what is best practice? Anyways, I hope that was helpful. My name is Danielle Wallace. I'm the owner of Grow Better. I help small to mid-sized nonprofits optimize their fundraising results, and I do a very thorough assessment of what it is you're doing, what's working, what's not, and then you and I decide what areas, what projects need to be taken on immediately to get you some really good ROI so you can help more beneficiaries. And then again, we continue to address your entire approach. So if that's of interest to you, you can book a call with me. There's a link in bio. I also sometimes will do projects for people. So if you're just interested in a project, let me know and we can meet. So thank you for your time. And we're in gloomy January, but we're gonna be to spring really soon. So hang in there, and I'll talk to you soon.